Cool. Everyone ready to get started? Um, Welcome to the National Mobile Development User Group, also known as GDG Music City. We're here today to talk about Firebase, but I'd like to take a moment to talk about some of our upcoming events for the next few months. Because we meet so late in the month, we usually take off November, December. So I think we have 3 more presentations this year. We're trying to get something together for August with Artiphone. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. So if anyone has a topic you want to present for August, come see us. We'd love to, to have something lined up for that. September, we'll be doing our big hackathon event on a Saturday. Joseph, would you like to say something about that?
September 19th, we're doing a hackathon. Actually, first, could you turn down your audio output on your Mac? I think that might be causing an echo.
Audio output.
Well,
that should be
September 19th, Saturday, all day Saturday, September 19th, we're going to be having a hackathon where we're going to be prototyping and designing and implementing prototyping apps targeting Google Project Tango. That's a tablet-shaped device that is capable of assembling a three-dimensional model of its environment and following you as you move around. I can give you a little demo maybe at the end of this thing if we have time. But it's a really neat device, and in addition to us providing food all day, sleeping quarters for your daytime naps or whatever, we're also going to be giving away I think 5 of these to the winning team, or if there's more than if the winning team is only 2 people, then we'll give away 5 total devices to the people that are judging the best. And this thing is, you can buy it for $512, but it's really worth, I think, more like $700 or $800 based on the hardware that's in it. It's a really neat spec, what it's got inside of it. But if you need any more information about what's going on with that hackathon or device, let me know. Again, it's September 19th, which is a Saturday. It's all day. And
is that Emma?
We're still lining up our August event. We've got ideas.
Yeah. And then we'll round out the year October with another cage match format event. We're trying to figure out what's going to be appropriate to put against each other. We're looking at the native versus hybrid versus
native mobile versus hybrid mobile versus web. So you want to
yeah.
The people that would be interested would know what that means.
Yeah.
So we're still throwing that together. We need to probably get some volunteer panelists so we can have a good expert panel. And do we have an arbitrator yet? Somebody who's going to be Vanna White?
We'll probably reach into our Connexus for that.
Yeah.
We're also looking for questions, anything you want to answer, anything you want to see head-to-head. Let us know. We'll probably put out a form or something on G+, so you can submit these questions or candidates that you'd like to see up there. Again, that's October, so we have a little bit of time to plan for, but I like looking forward to that. Okay, so that should take us through the rest of the year. If we have a number of prizes to give out tonight, separate from all the Firebase swag that they gave us here. They gave us some hot sauce, sunglasses, stickers, and headbands.
Great. That's up for grabs.
Yeah, that is free.
If you need a headband, you've been playing a lot of tennis, and you just need to get some sweat off your brow, there it is.
You're doing me a favor because I don't have to take it anywhere else. So please make sure that leaves tonight.
My wife said I forwarded the email to her to try to explain what I was doing, and she replied, "I really want a headband and some sunglasses."
They know this. Market research, yeah,
right.
That brings them out.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about being a GDG is we get support and stuff like this. Any kind of technology usually gives a nice swag package. And also, if anyone has any questions, we have a pretty direct link to developers or people intimately involved in it. So if you have a question that we can't answer, which you probably will, we'll be able to get it to the right hands if you want to explore this further. So, apart from those prizes, we also have a Chromecast, a Pluralsight card, and
I have a Pluralsight card which will get you 1 month's free membership into the Pluralsight catalog of tutorials. That's pretty handy because if you're wanting to ramp up, or maybe even just build up your skill set, whatever. It's got some pretty neat content. And I also have some Google Cloud credit cards here. I mean, cards with $300 of credit on them. So this is good for developing backend of your app, or whatever. And if I haven't given you one of these already, come see me. I'll hand it to you. But if I've already given you one, the other one won't do you any good.
We have a ton of those, so anyone that wants one, doesn't have one, we're just going to give you one before you leave. It's mandatory here. So for the prizes we'll be giving out, there is a sign-up sheet outside. If you missed that, if you didn't sign up, we'll make sure it goes around, and then we'll handle that through some kind of drawing or something toward the end. So for tonight, I was going to do a code lab, along with just a short presentation. I'll do the slide deck first. If you want to follow along with the code lab, it'll be in Android Studio. You can go ahead and connect your Android Studio, make sure that you have the latest update so you can pull it down. If you need a Wi-Fi password, you'll connect to Be My Guest.
Well, okay, there's Be My Guest with no dash, and that's got no password, but it's not as fast as the Be My Dash Guest, whose password is wireless access. No dashes or underscores. Wireless access. That's Be My Dash Guest.
And it's a little bit slow, and it'll probably be taxed if you have 2 or 3 people trying to pull down Android Studio. So if it's something you want to participate in the lab with, it would probably be a good idea to go ahead and get that process started now. That way I can go through the slide deck. Yeah, we should be good there.
Maybe the code is going to be from scratch, like there's no template that can download or anything?
Not particularly. It's going to use Android Studio to scaffold a Google Maps activity, so it generates the baseline code for you. The code lab is not really deep, but also you're not adding a lot of lines of code to it, and you get basically a Foursquare client. It's pretty cool how little you have to do these days to get a working application. So I definitely recommend going through it. There we go. All right, so my name is your name. You can reach me at your Twitter handle. There was an issue with permissions and generating the slide deck, so it's going to have to be stopped for now. My name is Ed Jones. I work here at BMI along with Joseph. We are both organizers of the user group. Lauren is also one of our organizers, hiding away in the back. And I guess I'm closest to an IBM stack developer. I've done a lot of mainframe, AS400, Unix, jumped over to .NET, doing more Java, on Webster Portal with some BPM, and I've also done some tandem nonstop. So I've kind of been around quite a bit. Got a really wide sense of things, but that's my depth isn't as deep as it is in other areas. That being said, this whole concept of Firebase is not a platform I really work on daily or as a hobby. So a lot of questions I may not be able to answer, but for what it does, I think I can give a nice tour. So what is Firebase? What is all this about? Firebase was purchased by Google this year?
I think it was
fall of 2014, yeah. So anytime Google gets a neat technology, we kind of hear about it at I/O. They proselytize it to us, and we talk about it here. I think last year we did Dart, a little Polymer, and tried to get into Go a little bit. This year I'm hearing all about Firebase. And there's nothing, let me go to the next one. There's nothing groundbreaking new in this. It's just a package for it. It's supposed to be a complete database as a service, so you don't have to worry about anything except your front-end code here. So you want to abstract all of that security, persistence, authentication, even hosting your database and setting up the database and schema. They want that to be not your concern. You just start writing your front-end code, and when you need to persist data, it's going to be as simple as possible. So as you see here, generally a backend will include these functions I just mentioned. You would have authentication, of course, the server itself, hosting a database on top of that, providing endpoints to it, and some security issues. All of that should be wrapped up in Firebase. That should be all you need. You just write your client, and then you just access Firebase through some calls, and you're good to go. We like to talk about the full stack. It is a complicated beast. Here at BMI, as an enterprise programmer, I have to deal with things Oracle, DB2, store procedures, really complex data structures, which I don't believe Firebase is really an appropriate solution for. Firebase is great if you just want to have a simple data store, if you're going to do a quick task, manage persistence across a chat client, something like that, something where you just need to hold data for a minute and get it back out. It's pretty easy to work with. It's client-side only. They don't want you to, I jumped the gun on that slide. Sorry. Full stack isn't that simple. The front end, it really isn't that simple either. We're living in a world now where you have to write, you want your app available on Android, you want it available on iOS, and you need to have a web client too to get full coverage of the ecosystem. And there's tools being released every day. There's something new to learn every day. If you're on the front end, there's front end stuff. If you're on the back end, there's back end stuff. It's a lot of things to keep up with. So we're seeing frameworks now start to try to take care of a little of that for you, so you can just get down to generating your application. I don't really care for this slide. It says the user does not care about your back end. When I'm doing TurboTax, I care very much about the back end. I think this is generally meant to say that your back end has to be solid. That's not, your front end can look nice to a point and it can be polished. Your back end has to be solid. It's not a matter of polish. It works or it doesn't. So some of the new expectations these days with apps, of course, speed. You want your online apps to be as quick as possible. Multi-platform, again, you have to address iOS, web, and Android. Simple authentication. You want to be able to authenticate as easily as possible. I find myself, when doing shopping online, if I have to set up an account to purchase something, I will not purchase immediately. I'll almost always hesitate, look for another option so I don't have to keep up another password. I've seen more and more stuff today being authenticated with G+, which is great. You just click on it, you go. You don't have to worry about keeping up with other passwords. Twitter it's kind of gone in and out of favor. I think Periscope uses authentication with Twitter. I'm not on Twitter so much anymore. But yeah, the point is you don't want to have another password to keep up with. And this is what I'm hearing a little bit of new stuff on. Offline support. You're now expected to have your app work if you have access to a data store or not. Of course, you're not going to get updates with, with not having a connection. This means that your app can't crash whenever you have no data connection. You have to be able to absorb that and handle it. There's always been ways to do that. You could write that manually. But with Firebase, it's just taken care of for you. It's a simple one-line config change. It's kind of neat how it does it. But that's kind of a new one to me, expecting your app to work offline. I'm at Google I/O using their I/O app in a presentation when they're talking about this, and their app didn't work offline. You have to be able to, that's Google's wish, you have to be able to handle stuff no matter where you're at. And there's a couple flavors of offline support too, which is kind of interesting. I didn't get to dig into it as much as I'd like to, but yeah, this is your base metal these days. All right, so Firebase, a real-time backend for your app. Includes, we'll go through each of these, the database component. It's not just a database though, it also gives you the authentication, gives it the security of it, and the hosting. You don't have to worry about hosting at all. It's all hosted through Firebase. I'm not actually sure if Firebase is its database itself or if it's just like Mongo wrapped into another wrapper. I'm not really sure what the database is. I'm guessing it's actually its proprietary database though, because they probably would have mentioned, I would have seen that elsewhere, that it was just a wrapper for something else. Again, these are client-side situations only. You cannot use Firebase for the server, or you're strongly recommended not to. It's supposed to just be for client-side. You're supposed to really think in those terms. Really think as a front-end programmer. Forget the back-end. Forget the database. not sure exactly what, oh, they want to talk about the database here. What is it? It is a NoSQL data store. I guess that's one of the first things we should have answered. Returning JSON from our RESTful API. It's pretty similar, I guess, to Mongo or Couch. Any other NoSQL databases out there people use and like?
There's Google Cloud data. Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah, that's I mainly heard from Couch a couple of years ago. Still hear about Mongo, of course, and they're pretty neat. As an enterprise programmer, have trouble trusting it and just believing things are going to be returned. But that's my own, perception from being where I'm at. If I was writing more personal web pages, more smaller applications, things like that, I'd probably be all over this. But unfortunately, I'm not working in that realm as much. So this diagram is meant to show one of the common issues with connecting to a data store. You get your connect string set up, you connect to the database, you go grab your data, and you generally close connection. So anything that happens afterward, any kind of updates, of course, you are blind to them unless you do another read. Or you do a bunch of code to kind of mimic some kind of update. Firebase is going to take care of all that for you. And it does this by sending out notification messages. Whenever something is updated, they'll broadcast out, hey, this data was updated. And your code, you can specify to consume that update, listen for changes, and it will dynamically update your front end, which is great. Anyone ever mess with WPF or XAML, anything like that? Yeah. So I think XAML had a couple notification components built in, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think what you need to do is, yeah, but it's if it wants to do something dynamic, it's not like
You're right. You're right. So this idea has been with us for a little bit, and it was, of course, you were always able to implement separately, but we're now seeing frameworks released where this is a given. This is something you no longer have to keep up with. It's just taken care of for you. So I guess that's a real novelty for me in Firebase is you're getting all of this in one package. This diagram is a GIF that is not animated. It's just supposed to show that when one is updated, the others propagate down. But currently, the SDKs looks like you have some options with HTML, well, web, iPhone, and Android, and there's some samples of code, I believe, here. This is all you need to persist data with Firebase in your application. All you do is you set a reference to your Firebase endpoint, which is an URI, and then you use that to set a value, and it pretty much takes care of it for you. That's all there is. I was pretty amazed by it. Now, syncing data, this is what I was mentioning, where anything listening will consume any updates automatically, and that's done with a on-data change override, which will fire anytime data is updated, so then you can have your code react to it. Kind of going through this pretty quickly, but I'll do a codelab here at the end of this, and we'll see a little more of this code in action and actually see it execute. But really, this is all you need to dynamically update your web page.
So is it pushing handful
Yes.
data?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, there's notifications that are wired up, and it will.
This right here isn't pushing, this code isn't, but it's pretty easy to.
Do both.
Yeah. This is the offline mode supports I was mentioning earlier. Looks like there's a couple of different flavors. Intermittent, which is if you go through a tunnel, and extended, which is if you go on a flight. It seems to be a matter of duration. Looks like one of them stores to a local cache. Well, it's going to persist to local cache and then use that for the database connection. And I had to read this closely to figure out. The other connects to a local data store. I'm not really sure what the differences are, but I don't think we have to. It's nothing we have to worry about. It's just supported. It's just done. And all you need to do that is in your config file, set persistence enable to true. It's done. All that offline is good to go. That's pretty amazing. Authentication, it gives you several flavors out of the box, several options for authentication. The main ones, of course, being Google, Twitter, Facebook. I haven't really messed with GitHub authentication, but they're easy to implement here. And of course, if you want to get a lot deeper, you have that option as well. I'm still wrapping my head around some of these authentication schemes, and I don't really care for them. They seem not so secure, but I don't know. So this is an example of if you wanted to authenticate with Google. You just have your method here, pass it the requisite parameters, and you're pretty much good to go. I think that's the same slide. We will authenticate through. We'll use the Google Maps API. We'll see some authentication in the codelab. Should make this a little bit clearer. Security, by default, everything is read and write. You have options to make things more granular. If you want to, for instance, if you have a message node where no one can write to, you want to make that read only. You just set these flags as you like, and you can pretty much figure out at any level you want how much you want to secure. And I'm not so familiar with these. This is all authentication options you have here. You can use wildcards, dig in security. I didn't dig in security very much, and we probably won't in the codelab very much. But moving on. Hosting, it's really simple to deploy your database once you get your account set up. All you have to do is initialize it and deploy it, and it's just there. It's good to go. You'll get a URI endpoint you can add into your application, and that's it. You don't have to worry about setting up a domain or anything.
So like, what are those? Is it just tools?
Yeah, this is there's a command line interface when you go to which we can look at in a little bit. They'll give you these options, but I really haven't had to do too much with it. Some things you get with hosting, of course, you get a free SSL, which is great. Managing that here. Static asset, I was trying to figure out what they mean by that. I guess that means your endpoint doesn't change. That's the only thing I can figure. They call it.
They talk about giving you a certain amount of, I think, 1 gig of hosting included in the product. I'm guessing you can put your images and stuff for your web version on their servers.
Okay.
And they'll host some small websites.
Nice, nice.
Client only, so all interaction is still done on the client, and that's just static files that they're hosting.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. And I guess we're ready to get to the live coding here. Anyone have any questions about some of the basic Firebase?
Would the database usually set up for users to upload media, such as pictures? Or is there a way to, there's the database side and the pictures hosted somewhere else?
Excellent question. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how, again, I don't work with NoSQL databases very much. I don't know if that's really an appropriate use for it. If that's something that's common, I really expect Firebase to behave like any other, database.
Just store them in URLs.
So you can store, but just
server through static asset.
okay.
Yeah, I like NoSQL databases to a point, but again, I need so much more in my enterprise job here. I need really complex data structures, and yeah. Any other questions?
Is there any way, what would be a good example of an app that would work well with this, with Firebase? Firebase?
That's a great question. They give you some examples of some things that use Firebase here. Like a chat app. I'm not sure if AnglerFire was. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. So, like when you have a live chat streaming client online, people are watching Big Brother and they want to have some commentary. Yeah, Firebase would be perfect for managing those conversations and serving them up. Another one we use here, actually, CBS, Big Brother. That's the example they use there. Anyone ever use GoToMeeting at work?
Yeah.
We use it quite a bit. So Firebase apparently is managing the persistence, managing those connection pools, who's online in the back end.
Warby Parker, don't they manufacture eyewear?
Yeah, this one I was kind of weird. They were using this to power a pneumatic tube delivery system for the mill within the building.
Yeah, I guess for their distribution center, because they make glasses and mail them out, so they also have like a sample box where they put like 5 glasses that you can wear.
That's right.
So yeah, so they use it as their badge. It's like, all right, direct and track. Like, oh, you can go this thing.
It's kind of internal.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I like seeing applications manifest in physical.
Games or something.
Yeah, like games.
Was that?
Like games.
Certain aspects of games, yeah, but. And, what's that?
Do you know if it's just using straight HTTP to do the syncing and just pulling the Firebase server, or is it using WebSockets to communicate with it?
I'm not really sure.
I think it's HTTP. I think it's just all JSON stuff.
Was it often?
It's just RESTful stuff. It's let's see what else. This is all stuff that go out to codelab. But right now there's 219,000 developers, and 1 million concurrent users on Firebase sites. So it's stable, it's definitely production ready. And it does have, again, some pretty good proof of concepts out there.
Kind of interesting that all of those examples of production use are all about the notifications.
Yeah.
Well,
So apparently that's something that they do
It's
well.
they do it very well because essentially you have that one line sign up for notification of a data change in either JavaScript or Java or Android or even Objective-C or Swift. It's basically a one line change. Say notify me of these updates, and it's a recurring update. So if anything in your data store changes, like any records are added, any record is changed, you're notified of that change. And because that part is so simple, it's very easy to get started writing an app that handles that kind of feedback, like a chat session or like a anything that maintains a list of records that fluctuate. Like even if you got like a bunch of users on a map, Firebase has a library built that uses Google Maps APIs by default, and so it can follow users around the map very, very easily. And so you can write a mapping website that will essentially track the users in a Firebase database in about 20 minutes. It's very simple.
Yeah.
There are code labs on Google's website that show you how to do this stuff.
Like kind of play where you need a real-time observable back based on code. It's probably the most
Better way to put it.
It's all a matter of what do you need to store, I guess, is your ultimate answer of is this an appropriate, well, not just Firebase, but is NoSQL an appropriate solution for you? Again, it's great for some tasks, for really deep business knowledge, business logic rather, business decisions. You have complex relationships in your database. I'm not going to go anywhere near NoSQL for that. It's not appropriate. But for those little things, maybe little aspects of an application, and you need something quick, yeah, it's great to work with. So I want to look at the codelab here. Here we go. So who is doing the codelab? Is anyone going to walk through it with me? Perfect. All right. So do we have Android Studio up and ready to go? Awesome.
Does anybody not have Android Studio up and ready to go? Or that intends to use it and not have Android Studio?
So let's go to Bing and look at Codelabs.
That's big.
Codelabs 2015. You go to our friend Google here and search for that. First link you will have is the Codelabs that came from I/O 2015 this year. And there is one here for Firebase. So what this is a spoof of Foursquare or Chicken Location apps. It's going to use the Google Maps API to figure out, hey, what is around me? And then you will have an option to check out of a place, and it will take your checkout and persist that to the Firebase database. So we're going to build this piece by piece and see what happens. A fair warning, I've done this a couple times. I've tried it on 3 devices, and I've only been successful on Android Nexus 9 running the M preview. It has not worked on my Samsung Galaxy, and it has not worked on my emulator. So it'll be iffy, but we'll see what happens. So let's see. First thing we need to do is go to Android Studio. Got a couple of them in progress here. Go here. So I'm going to name mine Checkout Lab because I have a couple of them on my file system already, but feel free to use the original here. Company domain should be Google I/O. Where's my next button? All right. And it'll be working API level 19. And we'll use a Google Maps activity.
We know how far back their API support is in there.
I am not certain.
If it requires 19, that's very limiting.
I think the lab was written for 19. I don't think that is so much a Firebase. I don't think there's anything in Firebase that would really require the high level. Yeah, it might just be for the maps activity. But I don't. We certainly didn't mention any kind of compatibility level necessary to invoke Firebase. So let's see. So I'm going to make a Google Maps activity. I think I'm missing my screen's all kind of funky here. Crap. There we go. And I'm just following along here. I'm not sure that, there we go. So when you complete it, the initial screen after your Google Maps activity.
What was the title? I'm sorry.
The title, checkouts. Yeah, mine's a little bit different because I have that project already.
Oh.
So, okay, my Gradle build is done. Everyone through that step okay? Need more time? Okay, just let us know if you need to slow down for a moment. So next thing we're going to do is we need to get an API key for our Places API. Hold up. Sorry, I've got a couple things. I'm going to clean up a little bit. So inside your API XML, you will have a link. So you will need to do this step on your own to get your own credentials. But the Firebase credentials will share my Firebase database so we can demonstrate the concurrent notification functionality. But for now, I want to make a, actually I already have this in my project. Sorry, a little bit of a mess here. So you create here.
Which file was the link in?
Yeah, that is under the Google Maps API to XML, and that is in your res values folder. So after you perform those steps, if you need help, I'll come by and take a look at it here. Basically, you're registering your application, you're enabling your API, and at the end of that process, under your credentials, you're going to get an API key that you're going to put back into your XML file. And that API key is the one that starts with ALZA. So, ALZA. And again, use your own API key here because that will be linked to your account. All you need to do with that key is replace your key here, the API key, and you should be good. So does anyone need any help with that? Everyone ready to go? Yeah, sure, no problem. No problem. Yeah, it's not going to get better. I'm sorry. That mouse is already taxed enough. Yeah, some of these bills might take a little bit to execute as well, so we'll see what happens. So if you've never worked with Google APIs before, this is a great, easy way to step right in and start picking up. I was always intimidated at some of these things, but um, it's pretty straightforward if the net's fast enough.
I think I missed the,
Yeah.
that web page. I didn't get there.
Oh, yeah.
What was it again?
Yeah, just not on Google. Codelab 2015. Yeah, the 2015 might be,
No, no, it's that one right there, IO 2015.
yeah, we're gonna be copying a lot of those.
Right, right.
I might be on the wrong one, which, Joseph, what's the, be my dash guest?
Be My Dash Guest password is all lowercase wireless access. WIRELESSACCESS.
Yeah, the Firebase one. I think this is page 3, if we've already.
Okay. I got the API.
Yeah, we're gonna be copying a bunch of code from these labs.
So I had this all on GitHub at one point, then I realized my API key was in there, and I thought, I'll back that out. I haven't. Yeah, I think, Android Studio, I've done this twice, about a month apart, and there's been Android Studio updates in between, and the difference was amazing. One of them I had a Gradle build resolution I had to take care of, and the next time it just fixed itself. Android Studio is getting a lot better. It's a pretty amazing product.
It's a lot faster.
Yeah, yeah.
My build time, like 35, 40 seconds, now I'm like sub 10. It's great.
Yeah.
A lot better now.
Are they putting in like data that you support too?
Yeah, that's what they were working on.
It's already in. It's already in.
Yeah, it's in 1.3 with one of the latest updates. It is releasing right now.
Do you pull from the super speedy update?
Well, I wasn't because I'm using it for work.
Yeah.
But now that I'm not working there anymore, then I'll probably get like, not like the nightly build, but like the next one. I think it's dev.
Yeah.
It's like there's Canary and there's dev and then beta and stable. I'll probably pull from dev.
I'll probably pick that up tomorrow, but tonight I was like, it's stable enough, and I was kind of nervous. But they give you a warning. They iterate so quick, and it's great to get new functionality, but then.
Yeah, when it breaks, it goes real wrong.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes wrong really quickly.
I use Canary a fair amount, but I typically keep a separate build. Because when a new big change comes out, they actually recommend that you install separately.
Right.
So I'll keep 2 installs, and that broke, shut that one down, go back to the one that's stable.
Right.
But that said, the only time that I really had anything break wasn't actually Android Studio that broke. It was a new feature that broke a library I was using. And so I was, okay, report that bug to the library, I guess, but, you know, and then it took them probably about 2 months to actually fix the feature, or fix that so that it works with the new builds.
Right.
But that was the only real breakage that I've had, and that wasn't directly their fault, so.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
if you want new stuff and you don't care if it's correct or not, really, you just want the new stuff. Yeah, Google's great. Enterprise not so happy about that kind of, iteration. We got to have more control than for some of our aspects. But I don't know. I kind of like, at my age, I like a little more polish. I like things to work, even if it takes a little bit longer. But that's probably just my style and my generation at this point. I'm having a hard time keeping up with. There's a new build tool every other day, I went from Ant to Maven to Gradle to what, Bourbon now, or not Bourbon. That's the new one I'm thinking of here. Gulp. Gulp's out now. Yeah. They're so close together in my mind. I don't. Meh. We're still working through that. Still having
No,
issues.
I'm
Okay.
good. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. No
I'm
problem.
on step 5.
Okay.
And you're at 6.
I think actually I'm just on 3, so you're ahead of me now.
Oh, okay.
So last thing we're going to do, step 3, is go to the Android manifest file. Yeah. And we are changing the Android to replace. Yeah, replacing maps with the geo. Yeah. I should take care of that. Have you done the Firebase step then?
Yeah.
Perfect. Has everyone done the Firebase step yet? That's going to do it. Cool.
But we're using your credentials.
That's true. We are going to use mine, but it's no big deal to set up for your own. And this right here, that is your endpoint. That is your URI. You'll plug in later. I'll give that to you as mine. So is everyone on emulator? Or do we have a cable we can plug in and run your device on it? I'm not sure if the emulator is going to handle this or not. So if you have a device you can plug in, it's definitely preferable. So I'm just executing mine here. It's a Section 6.
No, it's not. Yeah.
How come only fruit machines can connect to the internet?
What's that?
How come fruit machines are the only ones that can connect to the guest network? Because they're so chatty, they drown yours out. If he can't connect, I can't connect either.
Really?
access. I tried it last time I was here too, and, you know, I was at the iron yard there the other night, it wasn't fine, so,
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
but I don't know, his won't connect.
I know I'm on four, I'm on network.
Have you tried the others? The Be My Regular, Be My Guest?
I tried the dash one without the
Just
dash.
install Linux real quick. Since you have the bandwidth for that.
Yeah.
You should get that, you should get that out of social media.
I don't, whatever.
Sorry.
Yeah, so.
My bill, said I failed, what was it? The @string/Google Maps key.
Ah,
No
right.
resource found, so I made a mistake somewhere.
Oh,
There's a step where you're supposed to,
oh, you might be a little bit ahead of me. If you're on step 6, you say?
no, the inward manifest, did you replace the inward manifest, definition of conda.google.inward.go.api underscore key?
Oh, hold up, two of them were talking.
It's-
Yeah, I did that. But he just showed me, I don't have the string in the string XML file.
So I think if it's Alt Enter, you should get a little pop up that will add it for you automatically. I was expecting that error, just not yet.
Done here.
I changed this key. Maybe, it looks like I pasted my key in the wrong spot. But that's what
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah. The string name.
It's I think this is what you need up here. Wait a minute. Google Maps key, Google underscore. Sure. Is it in the process of building? Perfect. All right. So after you run it and execute on your device, your map should come and pop up to this screen. And there should be a little point here. Does anyone know what that little point means? The significance of that one spot in the ocean? Exactly. It's 0, 0, 0 at 0, 0, 0. The equator and prime meridian. What is it? Yeah. So of course, if you don't pass an argument. So this is all your app should do right now at this point. So you got yours okay? Looks like awesome. You're still building?
Yeah.
Yeah, it took mine a little bit. No, no.
Now that I've got that with me.
Are you on emulator? I'm just curious what you. Yeah.
It's gonna be-
I'm curious to see what's going to work or not.
Do you already
Say that again?
do you already have your SDK set up?
Yeah, I've ran, the emulator, you know what, was on the machine.
If you don't, we sure need to hack some.
it's part of the SDK.
Okay. It has a one, maybe like setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they do have GitHub links. If you're going through the lab, you just want to pull it all down. So that should be there for you, and you'd have to do your own API key. What's this for? Oh, cool, cool, thank you. The next step we're going to do is we're going to add the button. We're going to add a button to the layout. And we're going to get all that code from the codelab here. So this is on step 6. If you're still building, take your time. All you got to do is take all this code, go to activity maps under layout, and you're going to replace all of it. And I think, no, that's a different issue. Now, it's going to have an issue with you trying to reference a string constant that doesn't exist. So if you go to Alt, is it Alt Enter? Yeah, if you just click on that, hover over, type Alt Enter, it'll give you an option to name it check_out. It's going to add that to your strings resource file automatically for you here. So it's just a little shortcut if it's complaining about it. Oh, yeah, I did that wrong. So string values check out your value is check space out exclamation. Did yours ever execute? Nah, is it still?
It's got my name in there. I forgot.
I don't know if it's gonna run that, but if you Google Slack,
Yeah, you do. You do. That is, you're exactly right. So you gotta have that device. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
This is great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, well, sorry about that, but
before you can get to that.
so next thing we're going to do after, if everyone's ready to go, after adding our basic button on our layout, we're going to clean it up a little bit. We're going to make it float over, make the button float over the map. You're also going to add a blue dot showing where your current location is. And we're going to brute force all this. Under Java, make sure I got this right. There should be a maps activity. You should have 2 checkouts. Mine's called checkout lab. Yours, of course, would be checkouts. You want the one that's not the test. You're going to grab that map activity and write over all of it with the code provided on page 7 here. And what this code does is basically invoke Google Maps, set up handler methods in the beginning, instantiate your map, and get it ready for consumption later. And this is going to ensure right here is telling you what's going on. This piece of code is going to correct your padding, basically, making sure your elements have drawn in the correct order and thus have the right padding added to it. So take this code here and add it to the end of your automap ready method in your maps activity file. The lab warns that you will get errors saying that it cannot resolve the symbol, but I'm finding that the current version of Android Studio is taking care of that for you. So it's getting a lot better at resolution. Okay, so I've added this code from page 7 into the application, and this is all code to support the Maps API. Code to grab your position and render it on the screen is the scope of this code here. So this is a moment of truth. This is where we're going to find out where it works on what devices. After you've added all the code from page 7, we're going to run the application again. And if anyone has any questions or stuck on any point, let us know. Wait, I got an error somewhere. Right. Check out lab. Yeah, let's see what you got going on. Can I see your activity? It's Google Maps over here. I think that's the same. That should be the same. Yeah, that should be the same. Should be fine. So let me see that maps activity again. Sorry. Did you update the Android Studio? No, I didn't. Not a problem. I think that's the difference between yours and mine. We'll need it. We'll need it, definitely. I think I know what the issue. I ran across this the first time I did it. Okay. Okay, can you go to your under Gradle scripts, the Gradle wrapper for the app module? What version of Google Play Services are you using? Oh, change that to 7.5. Yeah, I don't. You gotta repull the dependencies.
It's just setting it up.
Center the net up.
Still working?
I mean, if there is like zero, I think
Okay, maybe I missed something.
I've seen it act really weird. So this is the end of step 7. There should be a button up top, even though it doesn't do anything. Oh. For the most part. But his is working without the checkouts button. I've seen that happen as well, just depending what device I'm using. Yours, Bill? Cool. Yeah, it takes a minute.
It's a B2C business model, right? Business model, and users, so.
That is a.
Overall.
Yeah, looks like you got it going good. Perfect. Of course, that button shouldn't do anything yet, so we'll work.
Yeah, it would,
Okay, has everyone gotten step 7 working? Or is anyone need a little more time? Cool, cool. Got mine working here. You should have a little blue dot showing where you're at and a button with checkouts on top, even though the button shouldn't do anything right now. They're currently missing the button. Not sure why. And he has a working version. Results may vary. Yeah, it's the requirements aren't changing though. You know, at least it's a pretty constant. So now we're going to implement code that's going to call the place picker API from Google Maps and expose the list of nearby places that we can choose from. So we're going to go to Maps activity here. And at the top, we're going to add a property. Go to your onCreate method. Just setting up code to handle intent support. This is going to attempt to fire off the intent and handle the error. I think that's its own method. Cool. Everything got resolved. So after you choose a place, activity result will be called. We're going to put code in here. Handle that. And if you complete everything on that page, should be able to build your app again. And this time you should get a list of places nearby you can choose from. All right, cool. So after completing all the steps to step 8, now when you hit the checkout button, it's going to bring up a place for you to pick nearby places from the Google API. Great. Good.
Well, I downloaded so far. But I was trying to determine what I was going to learn. It works, and that was like,
Which it could have been because.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I did say, yeah, I just. Right, yeah.
You can go along with what it's kind of right in that
I think it could be really complicated. That makes sense, but at the same time, there's some pretty essential features. Well, I would but that's part of if you want it to be private, the plugins. So I don't know that plugin can fail me.
it's one of those. unnecessary.
Oh, really? But now it's like, I mean, they roll like an issue or move traffic.
Now, and then I
There's a budget issue. They have. I should try that.
outside of like over in general side, but
I would.
yeah, I said, oh, my food lunch is here. Yeah, but yes, there's a trade-off.
I mean, satisfaction, you had another guy at work, he was, you know.
That's what I don't like.
Whatever, like it was, he's like Sublime user, and whatever he could do in Sublime.
It's like, why
basically
so
copy
much?
code in,
Why can't you just leave it
and
a little bit?
5 minutes each time.
Okay, so after you complete step 8, your app is actually mostly done. The only work that remains to be completed is the persistence of the place that you just chose from the Places API. So now we're actually going to get into Firebase. There's not a lot of it, so first thing we need to do is add a dependency to it in Gradle. So under Gradle scripts, there are 2 build.gradle files. You want the one that is the module.app. Yes, the app module. And that file looks like this. So I'm just going to replace all the dependencies. This is 9. Are you good?
Sorry.
Yes, it's just something, check it.
So replace the dependencies completely. And within the Android, in the Android block, you're going to add the packaging options. And this is why Gradle is so cool after having come from a J2EE environment. It's going to pull down my Gradle files for me as opposed to keeping up with that myself. And this will, of course, take a little bit of time to execute on our wonderful network. All right. So on maps activity, after that's complete, you've done your Gradle sync. You're going to go back to maps activity. You need to add your So under maps activity, it's going to give you the Firebase URL. That is not the one we want to use. It's close. Okay, so if you're implementing the database, if you're on step 9 and you're where you need to specify your Firebase endpoint, do not use the one in the lab. Use this right here, vividfire3375.firebaseio.com. I'll leave that up here for a couple minutes. That's the one I created, so we should all theoretically operate on the same database. Yeah, because I want to demonstrate concurrency here. Yeah, we'll see it here. We'll see it also I want to dig into this a little bit, the Firebase
you could be on their webpage and watch the database build.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, this is the current.
That's what I noticed earlier.
Yeah, this is the database. This is it. So is anyone still waiting on the my Firebase endpoint address? Is there anyone good?
I'm not authorized to use Firebase.
Yeah, it's this thing I'm trying to wrap my head around. There is no real authentication, to the endpoint. You just call it and you get stuff back. You do not care who I am. I mean, how do you?
I thought that's one of their offers.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean? Like, for example, it's not.
I'm calling it endpoint. Where do I specify?
You can have it require
That's true. Yeah.
So when you authenticate, you actually it gives you authentication code, and then you have to pass it back on to install.
I've been in enterprise too long.
Might be even
Whatever.
JWT.
Or just
Yeah, that's publicly signed, or privately signed, publicly available JWT means actually printing. As you verify that with this server side, just by checking those on.
So, as your yeah, this isn't going to work exactly. If you're using the lab, whenever it tells you to copy this code into mapsactivity.java, you will get an error. You need to cast this into a child event listener for it to resolve.
It took care of itself when you added some code down lower on the page.
Oh, did it? Did
Yeah, I
it?
got the error.
Ah, yeah. Okay, okay. And I think we have a lot of this on activity results. I just need the else if result code. Result code place. I think you just need to add these 3 lines to on event code. Good, good, good. Yeah, okay.
Well, when you do when you build that radar, it synchronizes to these devices. It's basically just a draw out. But once it did that, it should have known basically cached. It looks at like the result purposes.
I had this earlier.
Yeah, and we call it that.
Picture. Oh, that's right. That's what that was, yeah. So page 9 deals with connecting to Firebase, persisting something database, hooking up listeners. All your Firebase code is included in here. And again, we don't have any security on this. Just want to be It's operating pretty bare here, but you can add security later on if you choose to do. Once that's complete, you can run your application again. It's really pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, usually what I have, because it also. But it's 6 months. Yes, digital is somewhat qualified. That's, they use some kind of crazy.
All right, we are now connected live to the database. This is a picture of the structure of, well, I haven't set up. I've just talked about the data stored and tell it anything. Just told it I wanted to save it under a certain node name. If I check out here, who else is running the app? Is anyone else currently running? So if I check out there, we can see data made it to the database. Do you see that pin on your app? The only thing is, did you use my Firebase?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you try checking in somewhere? Let's see if it pops up. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm right here. I saw you check in right there.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't do. Anyone else have a? Go ahead. Let's see it pop up. There it goes. I just saw you pop up here, and I saw it pop up on the database itself. So we can saw the notifications being sent automatically. Things beautiful.
Do they make any statement or guarantee about how fast things stop going? Is it once every second? Is it sub-second? Is it we'll try for at least once a minute? You know, are there any?
Well, I haven't heard, and if they're proud of it, they would probably brag about it a bit. So I'm thinking it's within whatever nominal range.
Reasonable period of time.
Right. I mean, how fast does it pop up?
Yeah. What's real time? Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's all.
Right. Because real time could easily be 5 to 10 seconds. It could be or half a second seconds, depending on who you're asking. Right.
So who still has application running? So I'm going to delete. What? Go ahead, go ahead. I'm just going to take one of mine. I'm going to just so deleting this. 3. I'm still waiting on that delete to propagate. Well, that is not awesome. So the speed is not that quick. I think the ads work a lot better for some reason. Actually, I may not have. Yes, I only coded for the on-child added method, so that's why we're not seeing deletes propagate through. So that's a better answer. But I think that is all the lab goes through. Yep. Demonstrate concurrency. And we copied some code, but we really didn't get our hands on a lot of code here tonight. We relied on Andrew Stewart to scaffold up the application. And we did maybe 15 lines of Firebase total. Very little. Whoa, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Just leave these.
And also, did you see the blank in the green? It has a legend, but they don't stay that same color, but for like half a second. So I'm like,
It's still pretty neat to watch. Because you can see these, they add in,
the color's changing. I get it.
I have a much more complicated app than you see. It's like watching an ad movie.
All right. Does anyone have any outstanding questions, or everything's pretty good? So, yeah. So I think the key to Firebase is I haven't seen this combination of features bundled into the one unit. And I don't really ever like to talk about pricing here in the user group. I don't ever want this group to be salesy. I'll say that there are free hacker plans for you to get started if you want to experiment, and you can scale up to pretty much whatever you want to pay for. Yeah, I'd say it's production ready. If you really wanted to make a go of it, you need a NoSQL database. It's going to be solid. I don't see anything majorly different from Firebase than Mongo or Couch or whatever. If anyone has any questions about some of the usages, some of the history, wants to get in touch with maybe some of the developers for Firebase, let us know. I think we've spoken to, I think they're from Seattle. A couple of the Firebase guys are.
Nibby was, formerly Google Glass, and now he's.
Is she Firebase?
And she was San Francisco, so I'm sure they have a San Francisco group.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. She went from Google Glass to Firebase.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. She's pretty talented, so.
I just added a toast for the other events. So you should see.
You don't see something deleted.
You want to delete something?
Yeah.
Sure.
That was quick.
Brilliant.
Can you control
It
this?
was-
Like, can you control when this thing happens?
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm asking, can you control when this thing happens? You might not always want it to sync continuously.
Well,
Since it's a push, you're getting the data when it happens.
But you could put an async handler on your map widget, so that you got the event as soon as they pushed it, but then not populate it into your UI until somebody gets refreshed.
Well, I mean, maybe you don't want to use the data to pull it, but you want to control that in the app, when you sync and when you don't sync.
Yeah, you can sync on demand. This is like a polling mechanism. You can do it on your own schedule too. You can say, tell me the status now, and it's like a one-time.
So can you turn off this continuous sync?
Well,
and then
I think you would not find to the listener.
Yes.
Instead, you would request the change.
Yeah.
Status
Oh,
once.
I see.
just because you get it, you don't have to deal with it at that moment.
Yeah.
So.
You just don't register the listener.
Right.
There's some other API action.
Yeah.
You know if they're using GCM for the push, or if it's something else.
I don't know off the top of my head.
In house, then I would assume it would be GCM, but they bought it, so who knows?
Would assume they're going to go that direction at some point. They're really trying to tighten up that ecosystem.
And Amazon is a great example of that.
Yeah.
They built in house work one way. The things they bought, maybe one day will work that way.
Yeah. I think we already covered a little of these earlier. It's well documented. Firebase.com, of course, will get you to the homepage. I think that's about it. So I mean, go out there, have fun. Really, just enjoy what you do. And again, I'm your tour handler at your company.